In our think tank tonight, try to figure it out. Joining us tonight in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, trial attorney, former prosecutor Leslie Ricard Chambers is back with us. In Okemos, Michigan, trial attorney Jamie White is with us tonight. And in Cincinnati, Ohio, criminal defense attorney and civil attorney Amir Mabshish is with us. Great to have everyone here. Leslie, let me begin with you and that reaction that we saw, that our camera saw, that the viewers at home saw, and that the jury saw in the courtroom from the defendant in the moments that Ashley Biggs' dead body and her remains are shown up on the big screen.
Yes. So what we can conclude from her reaction was that the photographs showed the gruesome way that the victim died in this case. And I'm not sure if the person who is sitting in the red chair is a juror or not, but when I saw the defendant's reaction to observing the photograph, I also kind of cued in on the person sitting to the left and back of her, somewhat looking at her, just watching her reaction, watching the defendant's reaction. And so what's key here for me is whether or not these photographs or this photograph was so gruesome that it could have, if the jury saw too many of these types of photographs, do these photographs accurately reflect the crime scene? Yes, but also did the state present too many of these types of photographs to the degree that the probative value of the evidence would be outweighed by the prejudicial effect of the gruesomeness of these photos? And so, you know, the defendant, she seems to have seen this for the first time. I mean, that's at least how she is reacting. And she does seem to be disturbed, but, you know, we don't know what that reaction means. We don't know how much weight to really give it. What we can glean, though, is that the photograph is likely so gruesome that it was hard for her to even stare at.
Yeah, I just want to make clear the woman is not a juror. Court TV, we do not show the jurors on television.
Right.
We never record them. I'm not exactly sure what that person is doing there, but I'll try to find out. Jamie White, that reaction, it was real. Later on in the day, when more photos were put up by the medical examiner, she's not having that same reaction anymore. But that's the first time that Ashley Biggs' image is put up on that screen in the state that she was in at the scene. What do you think the jury takes from that reaction?
So I agree with Leslie. I think her explanation of the legal standard is point on. We have rules in place to prevent the jury from seeing unnecessary graphic photos such of this nature. And I think, my bigger concern, Vinny, is, why is the defense not jumping up and down and trying to do something?
But the jury's got to see it, right? I mean, we're trying to figure out who did that.
Look,
the jury should see it.
They see some of it, Vinny. I know you're an old prosecutor, but look, you as a defense attorney, you
it's
get
the
up,
truth. It's what happened.
You get one picture, you get one video, maybe two. You don't get to spoil it over and over again. And this is just one concern I have with this particular defense team, Vinny. We heard evidence over the last 48 hours of extraordinary prior bad acts. Acts that, in my opinion, were not remotely relevant, but if they were relevant, they went far beyond the standard that's been articulated by Leslie, in that if stepmom did in fact commit any of the abuses that have been alleged, they should have never been allowed into court. And if they were allowed into court, they should have at least been disputed by the defense, which from my watching, that did not take place. And, again, we have not seen any sort of defense arguments or attempts to rebut some of the forensic evidence. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. but we have, evidence that's been put forth or at least alleged that has not been supported by anything forensically. And I can tell you, if everything boils down to a phone call in this case, and I know that's not the question you asked, Vinny, but if everything boils down to a phone call in this case,
we're going to get to that. Don't worry, we're getting to that. Next segment, we'll be all over that phone call.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I guess I would just summarize by saying I agree with Leslie, and whether they saw one picture or 5 pictures, I think the defense, she deserves better in regards to pushing back on some of the evidence we've seen today, including some of the photographs that you've suggested are a problem.
All right, Amir, what is the ultimate impact of all of this? And what do you think it really means, her reaction when she does it? Is that a sign of innocence? Is that a sign of guilt? What is that?
I agree that her reaction seemed genuine. So I think it was a good thing. You're not allowed to ask jurors to put themselves in the place of your client or another witness. And at that point in time, they see something so inflammatory, and she reacted appropriately. So that's exactly what you want your client to do. I also agree it is inflammatory, so you want to limit it. But at the same time, she did. She reacted genuinely. It appeared. But we have masks on. This is where COVID comes into play. Should we even be having trials right now where everybody's masks are covering their faces? I mean, you can see half her face, but it did seem genuine. I think it was a good reaction, but it's a small point at the end of the day because the evidence is what is going to weigh more heavily, not just her reaction.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of evidence. Let's talk about the backpack that was found in the backyard that she shared with the admitted murderer, who then on the stand said he didn't commit the murder after he pleaded guilty back in 2013. There was a backpack, and we've got a list of what was in that backpack. This is like, if you're going to commit a murder 101, this would be the checklist, right? First, you got to get duct tape. You got to have the duct tape. Another piece of duct tape, a phaser cartridge, which is some sort of a taser, camouflage face paint. You've got the black gloves and a face mask. And then, of course, the duct tape that was found matches the duct tape that was on his clothes and duct tape that was at the scene. So they were able to put all of that together, Jamie. Does that do anything to implicate her versus Chad Cobb, her husband who pleaded guilty to the murder?
So the prosecuting attorney is going to try to create a scenario where this ties her to the evidence in some way, shape, or form because she lived there. But if you look at the majority of that evidence, taking away the phaser cartridge, I suppose, any of those items are found in any of our homes on any given day, whether it's the garage.
I'm not going to your house. I'll tell you that. If you got a backpack full of that, I'm staying. Don't even invite me to dinner because I won't go.
Fair enough. I'm in Michigan. We've got some stuff going on up here. But Vinny, certainly this is the problem with their case. Their case is not based on evidence tying her to committing the act. There is no confession committing her to the act. There is your traditional evidence that gets somebody to a murder conviction isn't here. So now we're in a position where we're saying we found duct tape in your home or near your home where your ex-husband already confessed to the killing. I mean, so I guess taking it one step further, and again, I'm not suggesting there isn't evidence against this young woman, but at the end of the day, if we're getting to the point where we have convicted killers who pled guilty, weren't convicted by a trial, pled guilty, found in a tree line full of blood of his ex-wife, and ultimately confessed to the crime. If that implicates a woman who happened to live with him at the time and, admittedly was with the other children trying to figure out what was going on after the fact, I think that's a bridge too far. That's all they have to work with in this case, other than a 12-year-old young woman who was given some pretty incredible testimony of her own. But I'm not impressed by duct tape found at a house. And I hope nobody looking at me down the road would be impressed by that either.
Leslie, I've got an answer to your question. The woman who we see in the video sort of behind the defendant is part of the special COVID cleaning crew that works that courtroom. So whenever someone gets up from the witness stand or wherever, she's part of the crew that goes in and cleans everything up. So that's who they are. And it's an extra person that we don't normally have in a courtroom, right? But now we do.
Right.
Bottom line here, Amir,